A very good afternoon to Dr. Umi and my fellow friends. Today, we from Group C will present to you about the movies that we studied, which is Sherbs and Butchers. My name is Wei Xian and I will present to you about the parties involved in the movie and the synopsis of the movie that included the background fact and the storyline. Sherbs and Butchers is a 2016 South African drama film directed by Oliver Skims, which the storyline is actually based on the real event that occurred in 1987. It's also about a case of murder committed by a young teenager named Leon Labuschagne, also known as Leon, a 19 years old white South African allegedly suffering from mental depression. In the beginning of the movie, Leon was prosecuted for shooting down 7 members of Mamelodi Football Club at the quarry. Then, John Webber, a senior advocate, was assigned to represent Leon. Mr. John Webber faced difficulties at first when Leon did not give full cooperation during the trial, as he refused to disclose what actually happened during the incident. However, Mr. John Webber felt that something was wrong the moment Leon told that he knew what happened on the death row. Mr. John Webber was then found that Leon was started to work as a prison warder and assigned on gallows duty at maximum security prison since he was 17 years old. Besides that, Leon had also developed a very close relationship with all the prisoners, as he had to take care of them. Yet, he was also the one who is responsible to haul them up and string them up. In the third trial, Leon mentioned that he cannot remember what had happened at the quarry. And when the court adjourned, Mr. John Webber has found out that the opening sound of the baggage door, which is similar to the sound of trapdoor opening, was the trigger for an unconditioned response in Leon to act unconsciously to kill the 7 people, and he shows it to the judge. At last, Mr. John Webber had won the case and succeeded in defending Leon by reducing the punishment to 20 years imprisonment. There were 2 parties involved in the movie, which were accused and the state. The accused was Mr. Leon Labuschagne, while the state was the state of South Africa. Mr. Leon Labuschagne was represented by Mr. John Webber, a human rights advocate, while the state was represented by Ms. Marias, a prosecutor. That's all for me. Thank you.
Hi, so now I'm going to discuss about evidence exists in this case. Evidence is the material placed before a court for the purpose of assisting a judge to reach a decision in a matter. So there are 2 evidence, which are prosecution evidence and the defense evidence. Prosecution evidence is the evidence that Ms. Morris has presented to the court. This includes a pistol registered in Leon's hand and a skull found in the scene. 9 strings of washes were found in Leon's drawer to cover the bed for coffin. This is because the executing officer will obtain him when he completes his job. Then, compared to those who have the most condition, will be the winner. This, according to the prosecution, inferred that Leon did enjoy his job. Next, for the defense evidence, is any statement given by Leon during the court trials to defend himself from the charge. I will highlight certain of them. First, Leon told the court that the opening sound of the bucket door has a similar sound as the trapdoor opening. He could taste the smell of the rope that was used during the execution at the quarry. Leon feels that the sound of man unit on board is similar to the man chanting during the prison drill. Some of the executed prisoners were the same colors with 7 victims, and there was sound of door closing before he fired the shots.
Hi, I'm Famiza. So now I'm going to present about the verdict of the court, the ground of decision, and the applicable law in this case. So the verdict of the court is Leon was found guilty of murder. However, due to extenuating circumstances, he was sentenced to 20 years of imprisonment with the possibilities of an early parole based on his progress in psychiatric treatment. So the ground of decision made by the court which Leon was found guilty of murder is because Leon himself acknowledged that he had committed the murder, but his mental anxiety had impaired his ability to appreciate the wrongfulness of his act at the time. So this is what we call the extenuating circumstances, which refers to Leon's mental disorder. Based on all the evidence given by Leon during the court trial, the court found that at the time Leon committed the offense, he was suffering from a mental defect. However, this doesn't entitle him a total discharge from a criminal liability as well as to exempt him from any sentence, and therefore, Leon was sentenced to 20 years of imprisonment by the court. Next, the applicable law in this case. In this case, Leon supposedly should be sentenced under Section 2771 of the South Africa Criminal Law Amendment Act 1990, which reads, "The sentence of death may be passed upon a person who convicted a murder." However, due to the presence of these extenuating circumstances, which refers to Leon's mental disorder, the sentence was pursuant under Section 2772 of the South African Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 1977, which reads, "Where the court on convicting a person of murder is of the opinion that there are extenuating circumstances, the court may impose any sentence other than the death sentence." This sentence shall also be read together with Section 787 of the Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 1977, which related to mental illness and criminal responsibility. And thus, this explains why Leon was sentenced to 20 years of imprisonment with psychiatric supervision instead of death penalty.
Now, I, Liana, would like to discuss about the type of law. The type of law in this movie is the criminal law. This law deals with matters where people are presumed to have committed crimes such as committed fraud, murder, theft, and also rape. In this movie, this criminal law has been shown when Leon killed 7 people with a gun at a quarry. In Malaysia context, criminal law is solely under the jurisdiction of the parliament. Most of the penal provisions comes from the penal code. The code declares what acts or omissions are offences and also provides for its punishment. It specifies the circumstances in which an act or omission will be regarded as an offence. In addition, the criminal justice system in Malaysia ensures that a person who is guilty of an offence is punished in accordance with the law. Relating to this movie, murdering intentionally belongs to the category of offences affecting the human body under the Malaysian Penal Code. In Malaysia, whoever committed murder shall be punished with death, as stated in Section 302 of the Malaysian Penal Code Act 574. Although Leon should be charged for murder, however, there is defense of insanity that could also be available to him because he was suffered from mental health. So the legislation will be like this. There are 2 elements that must be present before a person could be held criminally responsible, which are act and intention. In the Penal Code, it contains provisions relating to general exceptions to criminal liability. If the offender could bring himself under this category, he will be absolved from this criminal liability. One of the exceptions relates to the mental state of the offender is Section 84 of the Penal Code. So the procedure of the trial in respect of persons suspected to be unsound. Generally, the conduct of trial in court is governed by the Malaysian Criminal Procedure Code. It also includes examining the mental capacity of the offender. The provision is according to the Section 342 of the Criminal Procedure Code. The person shall be placed under psychiatric observation for a certain period of time, and thereafter he shall be brought before the court to be tried. If the court finds that the offender is of unsound mind, he shall be free from charges but need to be sent to psychiatric hospital in accordance with Section 347 and 348 of the Criminal Procedure Code.
There are a few legal terms that we found in the movie, but I will highlight some of them. First is bailiff. Bailiff is a person who is employed by a sheriff to serve and execute writs. Prosecution is an institution of legal proceeding against a person to a criminal charge. Witness is the one who has the knowledge about the matter or providing evidence voluntarily under consumptions. External circumstance is circumstances that tend to diminish culpability. Prior means existing, previous or income in time, or a criminal conviction at the previous time. Testimony is an oral form of evidence given by a witness in order to questions at trial or in a court. Docket is a case on a court calendar, or it can be called as a brief note. Verdict is a decision that is made by a jury in a trial, and the decision must be accepted by the judge as final judgment. Conviction is a result of an accused had been charged guilty of a crime in a criminal trial. Acquittal is a result of an accused that are set free from being guilty by a verdict.
Now I'm going to present about the court involved in this movie. In this movie, the court involved is the High Court of South Africa, where Leon case was brought and heard. This is because the charge against him was serious for committing murder 7 black men. This is a murder case that carries death penalty, so it will be handled by South Africa High Court. Next, the function of South Africa High Court. South Africa High Court usually only hears civil matters involving more than 100,000 rand and serious criminal cases. They also hear any appeals or review from the lower courts which fall in their geographical jurisdiction. The High Court also hears any matter involving a person's status such as adoption, insolvency, and others. Now, if Leon case was brought into the Malaysian context, it will be the same where the Malaysian High Court will have jurisdiction over this case. Now, I would like to present about the function of Malaysian High Court. Malaysian High Court shall have jurisdiction to try all criminal cases including offences involving death penalty. Subject to limitation in Article 128 of the Federal Constitution, it shall have jurisdiction to hear all civil cases. The civil jurisdiction shall include matters specified under Section 24 of the Court of Jurisdiction Act 1964. It has power to hear civil or criminal appeal from subordinate court. It may exercise its revisionary power in respect of criminal proceedings in subordinate courts and have power to call for record of the proceeding in the subordinate court or tribunal and review the same. The reason why Leon case would also be brought to Malaysian High Court is because High Court Malaysia shall hear cases involving death penalty and murder case. There are similar cases happen in Malaysia which also were brought to Malaysian High Court. For instance, Sulawati Lawiya case where 3 accused were sentenced to death penalty. That's all from us. Thank you.